All right, welcome to Growing Together, a podcast of Central Presbyterian Church. This podcast is about learning to grow together as a family united to Jesus. So, in many ways, this podcast is not unlike being at a family dinner table, around a fire, or any other places families gather. So, welcome. Take a seat and let's get going. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Growing Together. We're excited to explore what makes Central. I'm Cole Lesher, and I'm the pastor of college and young adults here at Central. And with me is Matt Woodson, Assistant Director of Student Ministry, and just a man among men of beards. Seriously, it just keeps growing and keeps going, and it makes me so happy. So hello, Matt.
Hey, if you have any questions about how to grow a beard, my number one tip is just don't shave.
Valid point. I really enjoy that. Next up, who knows so much about beards, is Karen Brown. Karen.
Well, you haven't seen me in person in a while, so you don't know.
Yeah. Karen is Director of Family Ministries here at Central, and man, has just done so much in her years here. So I'm excited for her to be with us. You can say hi now, Karen. We've already, you're here.
Hi.
All right. Yeah.
Hi.
Well, the first question, as I was thinking about interviewing the person who works specifically with early childhood now, but also, is over the whole family ministries. I don't know about you. My childhood was pretty interesting at times in regards to funny stories. Like my mom the other day was sending me pictures of me as a kid. They had just found like a box of pictures. She sent one. And it looked exactly like my youngest son, Owen. It was ridiculous. It was so weird. But the question is, what kind of memory or recollection do you have of childhood that you've had recently? I don't know about you. I get flashbacks all the time, whether they're through pictures, like I said, or in any way. So I'm looking at this picture and I see this sword that I used to love. It was before, the pool noodles, but it was that same kind of material.
Yeah.
There was this weird sword that used to have in the handle, it had these little plastic things that when you would sword fight, they would try to hit it and you'd score a point. The sad part, I was the only child, so I don't know who I was playing that game with, but somebody, I guess, maybe my moms were doing that on a regular basis, maybe let me win. But I just remember that it was that flashback of I used to run through the house with this sword thinking I was this epic, warrior. Yeah, it was just a good time to think through of hey, that was my childhood. So what about y'all? What do you have any memories recently? Do you think back of kind of your childhood experience?
Yes. So I used to be a big goody two shoes growing up. And I remember one year my dad and I bought these illegal fireworks and we were setting them off on the 4th of July. And probably not the safest thing, but we had this big old firework and my dad accidentally kind of messed up the trajectory of one, and one of them exploded over our neighbor's house. And then 2 minutes later, this police cruiser comes by, and I tell the police officer, I'm like, "Hey, did you see that awesome firework that my dad just blew over our neighbor's house?" And my dad's like, "Oh, Matt, no, don't, no." But
oh man. Well, we just learned that you've done illegal things, so we'll check that off in your annual review.
And we're never going to tell you our secrets.
Yeah.
You have learned that I am willing to cooperate with the police, and I am always willing. I'm always willing to repent on behalf of other people.
Yeah, I just love the message of your pride for your father in that moment, because you're like, did you see what my dad did? I mean, he almost caught a house on fire, but it was amazing.
That's funny.
What about you, Karen?
So when I was little, I used to do this all the time. I would get the croquet mallets out, and I used to act like those were crutches and wrap my foot up and lie to all my neighborhood friends and tell them that I had broken my leg, or I'd wrap my arm up in a dish towel and some masking tape and try to convince them that I had a cast on. I don't know, because I was the youngest and needed attention or what, but it just brought back that memory of me trying to convince somebody that the croquet mallets were my crutches and I broke my leg, and just the look on their face, yeah, we're not fine.
Yeah. I was kind of like that too. My mom makes fun of me all the time whenever I get hurt. She goes, "Oh, do you need a wrap for that? Do you need a wrap?" Because apparently, as a kid, I was obsessed with, "Oh, I hurt my leg. I need a bandage, or I need a wrap, or whatever."
Right.
So, and then I was, boy who cried wolf most of life after that. So, I'd come in with a broken arm, and they're like, "Do you need a wrap?" I'm like, "No, I do. I need attention. Like, this is broken." They're like, "Oh, okay, let's go to the emergency room."
Oh.
There's a lesson out there for
Funny
all
memory.
you. Don't pretend to break your arms.
No, it'll come back to bite you.
Yeah. So I want to move into a little more about you, Karen. Tell us about Karen. Who is Karen? And I'm so sorry. Let's all take a moment of sadness for the fact that your name is being used as as a rough thing in society right now.
The worst.
All the Karens in the world who don't act like Karens. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry for you.
I know. I really considered changing my name.
Yeah.
She's literally the best boss I've ever had, and it's just so. I mean, if you want to give me a raise for that, go ahead. But
Cha-ching.
Yeah, it's so funny because I don't associate Karen with that name.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it because it's getting a bad rap right now, and I was considering changing it to Mother Teresa. That has a pretty good reputation.
Yeah, people are pretty into that one.
Yeah.
Just go with Care Bear. That's the name. That's
Oh,
it. That's always my favorite name.
We were actually just talking about the most recent Super Bowl commercial where people like apologize and give M&Ms to people for I'm sorry I did this. And then it's like, I'm sorry I called you Karen. And then the woman says, but my name is Karen. And then the woman gives her another packet of M&Ms saying, I'm sorry, your name's Karen.
Yeah. A lot of people texted me after that commercial came out.
Yeah.
They're like, sorry, your name's Karen.
Yeah, that's real life.
Right.
But yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself, anywhere from, what was growing up like and coming to faith and all of that. And maybe even your call of working with children. I mean, you've been a teacher, you've done all sorts of things and worked with children for a long time, and you deal with Matt. So
maybe we should start there. No, no, I love working with Matt, and I love working with kids. I've born and raised in St. Louis. Lived here my whole life in a wonderful family. My parents are still living. I have an older sister. And really, I just had a great childhood. Just felt loved and safe, and just such a blessing to grow up in a home where parents love God and love me. I can't remember a day when I didn't really love Jesus. And so that's also just a huge blessing for me. And I grew up and went to Catholic schools all growing up, and just really kind of grew in my faith. God used my Catholic church and Catholic community, Catholic schools, really to draw me closer to him all throughout. And then as an adult, I went to a women's Bible study because they had free childcare. So once my oldest was born, a friend of mine invited me to CBS. And so I went to community Bible study and started reading the Bible. And that kind of introduces my road to Central. I've always wanted to be a teacher, grew up playing school and taught. I taught school before I had kids. And then once I had kids, I committed to homeschooling them for a season, which was the hardest and most wonderful thing I've ever done. But in that season of when my kids were little and I wasn't working full time and I was homeschooling, I was studying the Bible at this community Bible study. And through that Bible study, I met somebody who invited me to Central Pres. And just out of curiosity and through Bible study, my husband and I tried it out one Sunday. We put our son, who's now 26, put him in the nursery and went to church on a Sunday morning here at Central and never left. And we just, like sponges, we just loved hearing the gospel and preaching of God's word every Sunday, and really just fell in love with the community here. And so all of our kids were raised here. I have 4 kids, boy, girl, boy, girl. My oldest is 26. And then I have a girl who is almost 23. And then my next son is 20. And then my daughter is almost 18. So they've been raised all through Central, and we love it.
Yeah, it's wild.
I know.
Just thinking about that. Keegan was in high school when I came here. right? Something like that, or like early high
Probably
school.
early
Yeah,
high school. Yeah,
a grown man. It's crazy.
it is.
Uh, one of the coolest things to me about your story is that you played field hockey in college, like for a university.
Yes.
Tell us a little about your competitive spirit in that and like what you learned from field hockey.
Oh gosh, I learned so much from field hockey. Being a part of a team, you just learn so much. Being a part of a team, having shared goals, self-sacrifice, submitting to authority, all those things have served me well. And then also just hard work and the joy of that. I've carried that away from sports in general, just doing more than you thought you could do for the sake of the team, So I think
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it was a real blessing.
yeah,
It was a wild time.
yeah.
Super fun,
Growing up, field hockey wasn't played widely
right?
in our area. So coming here, I hear more about lacrosse, although lacrosse is getting bigger and bigger. But
Yeah.
then I heard about field hockey. I was like, well, what's that? And so it's just cool, like now knowing about it. It's like, oh, that's an intense situation. I like that.
Yeah. It's a lot like soccer. The positions are very similar to soccer. The scoring is very similar to soccer, but it just sticks and a little white ball.
Yeah.
Super fun.
It's just a little bit of violence.
Cole, I think you would be a great field hockey player.
Women's field hockey player. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's mostly a man's sport everywhere else in the world.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Check it out.
There you go. We learned something new. Go Google it. Google magic.
Yeah. If you're willing to wear a kilt. So
oh, yeah.
That's a deal breaker.
Yeah. Could be worse things. What's your favorite thing about living in St. Louis, or maybe favorite thing about being from St. Louis?
Oh, gosh. Well, I think the most obvious thing is that my family's here, my community's here. I love being close to my parents. My parents live really close to me. I love having my sister here, my church family, my friends. I think St. Louis is just a really great place to raise a family. There's just lots of family-centered activities that won't break your budget. There's a lot of free things to do here. Our parks are great. I love living in a place where there's every season. So I love having the different seasons and all the things that come with that. And I love the St. Louis Blues. So those are all my favorite things. I'm a huge St. Louis Blues fan.
Yeah, there you go. I got to go to a game with your husband.
Oh, yeah.
Really cool seats and stuff like that. It was just really fun to watch him get so excited about the Blues.
Oh, yeah.
I was living vicariously through him. I was like, I don't know what to expect. I'm excited. Anyways.
Fun.
Matt came up with this question. It's
Oh,
a doozy. What is something in your Google search history that can tell us a little bit about you?
Well, I just looked at my Google search history. I really literally just Googled, why do my feet hurt?
Yes.
So I think that just tells you that I'm at the age and stage of my life where I'm just Googling ailments a lot and wondering how serious it is and why do my feet hurt? Maybe I'm just so used to sitting during the pandemic that my feet are like, wait, what is this walking thing we're doing?
Yeah, why do we have to do this? Yeah.
Right. Yep. That's real for sure. Why do my feet hurt? Among other things.
Yeah.
I mean, 25 is a really hard year, so you'll get through it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah. 25. That's me. Same age as my son. Nope, wait, a little bit younger.
That's odd.
It's a scandal.
Oh, man. Yeah, it was a scandal.
I'm at the age where we'd rather choose scandal over old.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you gotta go with something. So
yeah.
Hey friends, I'll take a break to say thanks. Thanks for listening. Thanks for going on this journey with us. That we would grow together. That we would ask the whys of what we do. It's good that you get to know some of these amazing folks a little bit more. And I'm thankful for that. It really does give us a better sense of belonging and being with one another. I want to remind you that our Sunday school schedule, our Sunday morning schedule, and our Wednesday nights begin very soon. Matter of fact, Wednesday nights begin this week, September 8th. You can go to our website, centralpres.com, and find more information and to register for food if that's what you would like. Sunday mornings, we'll go back to 8:30 and 11:15 with Sunday school at 10 a.m. in the middle. So please get involved. Get connected in the ways in which you can. It's been a hard couple of years, and it'd be really great for us to be together in the ways in which we can, in the ways in which we're comfortable. So I encourage you to get connected, to belong, to be a family. Now on with the show. So in every episode, we kind of talk about just kind of the work that we do. I think one of the questions that I come across from folks I work with is why? Why do we do the things we do? And this podcast, especially this season in particular, is centered around that question, because I think it's important for us partly to see that the church isn't just, purely reactionary, right? That we just kind of do some random stuff throughout the week. It's funny, is when I was a kid, I used to think I really wanted to be a garbage man because I was convinced that a garbage man only worked one day a week. They only worked the day they picked up my garbage. Well, it turns out that they work every day of the week almost, and that really crushed my garbage man dreams. But sometimes I'll get these offhanded jokes about being a pastor where they're like, "Oh, you only work one day a week though." Da, 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 da. And I'm like, yeah, that's not true. So, but the question is why? What do you do? Why do you do what you do, kind of stuff? And this is what this season in particular is about. So we've heard from Pastor Clay and Pastor Mike and Ben, and trying to figure out what each of us do and kind of what's behind it. And so I want to do that with you. You are the Director of Family Ministries, which kind of consists of two big spheres of kind of early childhood and then our student ministries. And so we're going to have a whole nother episode for student ministries coming up, which is exciting. And for many people, we'll get to be introduced to Taylor Bruce for the first time. Hopefully not for the first time, but maybe for the first time for some people. So that's exciting. But really the first question would be like, why is family ministry significant to you and to our church, in our church context? What does it mean to you to be and to do families ministry?
Such a good question. There's so many different directions to go. But I think I'll start with family ministries. To me, I think the years of watching my kids grow up and being a parent and being a teacher, interacting with kids, trying to take big concepts and learning them so well that I'm able to explain them in childlike terms has been transformative for me. So I think, these transformative years for our kids are definitely transformative years for all the adults around them. I think interacting with different ages is part of kingdom work, right? We're breaking down the things that keep us apart. We're breaking down the obstacles that want to make us go separate ways and hang around only people our age or that are just like us. And so I think family ministries kind of undoes that. It works against that effect of the fall and builds the kingdom in a way that transforming us. So through family ministries, through working with babies and little kids, explaining the gospel over and over again to kids as they grow in the way that they can understand it at that age, changes us, helps us grow as well. For me, I feel like that is the biggest why of family ministry. It's good for all of us. Our kids need to grow. They need to grow up, but we also need to grow younger. We need to grow more like them. Well, that's what Jesus said, that the kingdom of God belongs to children. And I don't think that's because children have something special that we need. I just think that they haven't learned yet to pretend. They haven't learned to hide what they're afraid of. They haven't learned to try to be somebody that they're not. And so I think when we work with kids, we can learn that from them. We can unlearn all the baggage and all the things that get in the way of our relationship with God. And then the kids then can also grow in wisdom and learn more about God with us. I think that's the biggest why.
I love how you use the words like change and transformation, especially when talking about kids, because that's obviously really easy to see. It's easy to see like a difference between a 2-year-old and an 8-year-old. But something that I've learned from you and also seen in our ministry is that parents change as their kids change and like their
Mhm.
parenting styles change just because that's the way that parenting works. So, do you have any, like any insights or any stories about, shepherding parents as they themselves change in being parents?
I think just the hardest thing is just that painful shift in roles when
Yeah.
you have those preschool years, when those blessed preschool years where you can like physically pick up your kid and put him where you want him to go, where, you can manage more of their lives. And actually, it's good for them. It's good for those little kids to have the structure and those solid boundaries. It helps them to feel safe. But it's not good for elementary and middle schoolers if that's our relationship with them. I talked with a parent several years ago about just you can almost feel the panic. And I remember feeling this of like, my kid doesn't want to do family devotions anymore. My kid doesn't want to sit with us in church. My kid doesn't want to read their Bible anymore. And it's just how do you move from being a teacher and having these boundaries and guidelines and expectations? How do you grow your role and grow those things with your kids, giving your kids more ownership, more choice, letting them wrestle through their own relationship with God? It's scary when our kids ask us questions that we don't know. It's so scary when our kids ask us
Yeah.
about the mysteries of our faith and the mysteries of God's character, and we are unable to give them solid answers because we have to admit we don't know as well sometimes. But that's actually good for our kids. It might feel scary and uncomfortable, unsettling, but it's good for both of us to come alongside each other as God's children and learn those things together. And that just takes a complete shift of roles as a parent. And then sometimes that's scary.
Yeah. Yeah. We read together some years ago the book Growing Young and Growing With,
Yeah.
the parent volume too. And I think, what's interesting about that is you are in family ministries and you have these stages of different ways you love and teach and care for your kids. And I just don't know if I ever really thought about that before maybe reading that book. And I don't know if I ever really was able, maybe my kids were, at least the first time reading, my kids were super young or not here yet. But like, it's just interesting to see the kind of being able to empathize a little bit about the stages. And, I get to see the other side of that, right? Where you work with parents who are just kind of starting this out, trying to figure out what this means, maybe their first kid, maybe it's their fifth kid, but we're just trying to figure it out. And then I get right at the edge of the college where like they're about to launch them and there's that, oh no, what do we do? Are they going to make the right choices that I want them to make? And it's interesting to know that actually discipleship starts really early. It doesn't just start at like 6 or like 12 or like 14. It starts with the little things of just walking with your kids and a lot of it just being modeling, which is so crazy and overwhelming to some extent. And so all that to say is one of the question I have is what does discipleship look like for early childhood education, like early childhood discipleship? What does it look like to walk with your kids? What do we do at Central through our kind of programmatic understandings when it's not COVID and maybe even when it is? But like what does discipleship look like for young kids?
Well, first of all, I've got a shout out to Christine Vandervoort and Jenny Smith, who head up our nursery and peeps and early childhood program. They do an amazing job of discipling to babies and toddlers and preschoolers. And what they do so well is for that age, they focus on really the two biggest needs that age is just safety. Like kids at that age, well, any age, they won't be open to any kind of discipleship or they won't be open to any kind of relationship unless they feel safe. And
Yeah.
safety is a big thing for those young kids. And that doesn't mean just keeping the scissors away or keeping them away from a hot stove. It's safe in the relationship, knowing what's going to happen. As we talked about before, the pandemic, that's hard for kids. Just all those things, knowing what's going to happen. You notice that little kids will ask about that a lot. They'll want to know that you're going to be there So it's safety and in their relationship with you, that it's solid. And then from there, it's just exposure. The biggest thing that our little ones have going for them is that they're like sponges. They can memorize everything. They memorize things we don't want them to memorize, right? So,
Yeah.
their brain is wired for that. So if we expose them to the gospel and who God is and scripture at those early ages, they memorize it way easier than we do. And so those things that they memorize, if we are intentional about giving them good things to memorize, those become foundations. I like to think of them as hooks for later, more complex learning. So they've got these solid hooks. They might not fully understand the scripture verses they're memorizing, but they can stand on them later to reach the next thing. And Christine and Jenny and the PEEPS program and our early childhood program do a great job just making sure that our kids feel safe and loved, but also they're exposed to the things of God at an early age.
One of the cool things that I've noticed my kids have been in so far since we could get them out of the house and in a program.
I love your kids.
Yeah. But one of the cool things about PEEPS, early childhood stuff, it's not just like a daycare. It is an educational journey. I mean, they are moved into levels of learning. And what's really great is it actually gave such a good foundation for my kids so far in their learning process to think through different things. I've been so grateful for that because, yeah, it's not just some babysitting, right? Like people do work and we're thoughtful in what we do. And, one of the other cool things about the PEACE program is that it's often kind of like an outreach for our neighborhood. We don't just have central members in this program. It's folks in the neighborhood and, we open up. And I think it's such a cool thing that people would trust us with their kids.
Right. It's such a great example of family ministries transforming the whole family.
Yeah.
Because you can't touch any one family member without touching the whole family. So, if kids are coming home from PEEPS and maybe their parents don't know the Lord yet, but they're coming home from PEEPS and they're singing songs, or they have coloring sheets, or they have books that lay out the gospel in different ways, that is a huge outreach. There's lots of families who have come to the Lord and come to our central family through PEEPS, and we're really grateful for that.
Yeah. So map out for us real quick about what all is in early childhood education, because we've mentioned PEEPS and we've mentioned different things. What all is happening maybe on a normal time, not a pandemic time, or maybe even just in general? Map for us what all goes on in those realms and maybe who runs them so we can give them a shout out.
So we have a nursery program, which starts at 8 weeks old and goes through 3. Christine Vandervoort is the director of our nursery program, and we're so grateful to have our nursery open on Sunday mornings when there's a worship service. So we have Christine and her staff running that. We have PEEPS that runs Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it's for 8 weeks through pre-K. And Christine Vandervoort and Jenny Smith, as her assistant, run that along with a great staff of teachers who head up those rooms for those kids. We also have a summer program with that. PEEPS is a miniature version of the mid-year program. And then for our Sunday school, our early childhood, and Wednesday nights during normal times, Jenny Smith is our early childhood coordinator, and we have a preschool koala room, and they, like you said, it's not childcare. It's very intentional discipleship in a lot of different ways. And Jenny does a good job with our Sunday school program and our Wednesday night program, leading our volunteers, and they just really love those kids well.
That's awesome. And then what about Kids Central? We have that as well, and the different things about that.
So once they graduate from early childhood, then Christine and Jenny hand the baton off to Becky Hall. Becky is our elementary runs kindergarten through 5th grade. And that's where we kind of shift from exposure and the question of, am I safe? That age and stage, those elementary years, parents will kind of feel a shift where kids will feel more brave and they'll want to experience more. The big question is, am I capable? Can I do this? Can I try this? And Becky does a really good job designing our elementary programming around that, just giving kids different experiences, let them figure out, try different things. once they graduate from elementary, of course, then we pass them on to our student ministry team with middle school and high school with Taylor and Matt and Ari, and they do such a good job. So middle school, that's kind of a age where they're really wrestling with who am I? A lot of parents describe it as kind of the kids kind of turn inward, and you have to really fight against self-focus. They're wrestling with just some identity questions, and that's the engagement stage. So you're just trying to engage them into a personal relationship with the Lord. They're trying to figure out, what is my relationship with God like, separate than my parents? And then high school, they're trying to figure out, like, where do I belong? And they're trying to figure out, how did God create me to express my faith? So our student ministry is designed around those questions and that kind of development for our older kids.
Yeah, that's great. I love the questions. I don't know, it's so helpful to kind of navigate through those. My own personal experience of growing up was, I was just asking a lot of questions. It's just what you do as a kid. You're trying to figure it out. I just think it's so helpful to model kind of our way of learning, our way of growth and transformation in that regard. So super helpful.
I find that, that progression, my own spiritual formation, I keep going back through that whole process. Anytime I learn something new about the Lord or about the world or myself, I feel like I go back to that early childhood stage and I learn something new about God that kind of shakes me up a little bit. And so my question is, am I safe with this new information?
Yeah.
And so start all over again. And so I think that's why it's so good to have kids around us who are going through those ages and stages, because they mirror our own spiritual development over and over and over again. I never want to send the message to our kids that they're going to arrive somewhere in their faith and then the growth is over and you finally made it. As soon as you figure out how to express one thing, figure out where you belong in one area, then all of a sudden God brings you something new, and then you're right back to that. Am I safe? Am I capable? Who am I? Over and over again. So I think we just keep going through it. I do anyway.
Yeah. The humble reality is you never know as much as you think you know.
Right.
You've never arrived. It's always a destination,
right?
Always a journey.
Right.
But yeah, I think in our remaining time, I want to ask, how do you see family ministries fit within our mission and vision? And the second part about that is we've talked in each episode about kind of our annual mission and vision. So this year's particular realities of intentional evangelism and discipleship and all of that. So I'll be curious about what that looks like in the family ministries world.
I love this year's annual mission vision because it does fit so well into what family ministries, it fits great into our family ministries motto. I don't know if you've seen those orange shirts that we wear and some of the other things that we have. We have the words team family on the back of our orange family ministry shirts. And I think just that phrase expresses our annual mission and vision. When you think about team, like I was talking about with field hockey, it's a group of people who are working toward a goal. So that's belonging to the mission aspect of it. And then family is, we belong to each other. Whether we like it or not, we're together. So I think that team family is that motto, that mindset that we've adopted for family ministries, and we try to implement at every stage. I love how that explains our mission and vision. So at every age and stage in our scope and sequence, we focus on serving and being part of a mission, being part of building God's kingdom in some way, even the littlest kids. That's how we speak about picking up their toys. Picking up your toys is creating order out of chaos. In a way, it's undoing the effects of the fall. It's working for something that benefits other people. And
I'm not stepping on a Lego.
Right. Right. So at every age and stage, we have specific ways that our kids can participate in those goals that our larger church body has, which is a really big passion of mine, is just always communicating to our kids that they don't have to wait to be part of the body of Christ. God is fulfilling his purpose for them at whatever age they are. So that's one way to do that, is invite them into our church-wide plan.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love team family. It's great.
Me too.
yeah, this is a together thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think during the pandemic, those are some of the things we missed the most is
Right.
those connection points with the people that we were connected with so frequently.
Mhm.
I long for the day where that goes get back to whatever new normal means, but I'm grateful and thankful for the work that y'all are doing and the work that we get to do together.
Me too.
So as we head out, I've been asking this question in the last few, and I think it's helpful. So what is the thing that gets you up in the morning? Like, what are you most excited about with regards to the work that you get to do here?
Yeah, I think lately, in the past few years, I'm excited that God isn't finished with my story and my own parenting. Even though my kids are adults now, He can use my good days and bad days as a parent. He can use my failures and my victories and the way I discipled my own kids. He can use those for His redemptive purposes. So I can take the mistakes that I've used with my kids, and God has so much grace, and my kids are wonderful, and He has so much grace over their lives in spite of me. But it feels very redemptive to take the things that I've learned, even the things I learned the hard way, and pass that along to other parents for the sake of other kids in His kingdom. I think that excites me to that God works like that and always gives us lots of opportunities to do His work. Not just one. He's not just a one chance God.
Yeah, he's not finished.
No.
Thanks for that. Well, Karen, thanks for being with us.
Oh, thanks for having me. Super fun.
Sharing your wisdom. Yeah, this is good. So I appreciate what you do. Thankful to hear more about what you do. Just grateful for you.
If we want to bug you or ask you any questions, how can we do that?
You can contact me at c.lesher@central. No, I'm kidding. No, I love to hear from families. I love when my phone rings and I get to talk a mom through a crisis in parenting. And even though I might not have all the answers, I love just communicating that parents aren't alone. We're not alone in this. We don't have to struggle by ourselves. This parenting's hard. So yeah, you can email me at kbrown@centralpres.com. I would love to have coffee or chat on the phone and connect with anybody who is feeling a little over their head. We all are a little bit.
Yeah. Great. If you have any problems, contact Matt. No. Well, thanks again, Karen. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks for being with us today. It's good to be together. If you want to find out more about Central Pres, please go to our website at centralpres.com or find us on all the social media things with the handle @CPCSTL. Join us next time as we continue to learn and grow together into the family of God. Blessings, friends.